Stephen from London News, Melbourne, Australia. Well, we had a little chat about how to pay Vic fines and how to pay fines in general. The same thing applies all over the country. You're dealing with private corporations. So remember, we said we'd guarantee to pay them. We promised to pay them. Now, we're going to go a little bit further today. We're going to talk about how to prepare when you get that summons with the capital name, and it's addressed to, obviously, the deceased estate at law, then actually talking to you. And I'm going to have a little look at the most important thing, their grammar. Now, I'll show you some copies of an invitation to do business at one of their vessels in dry dock. Now, this is a summons, an invitation to do business, lots of pages and stuff. I'll actually show you how to do it, but if you notice, it's all in boxes, and there's a reason for that. And it has up to the accused. Well, let's look at those words in syntax grammar. It absolutely has no meaning at all. Well, I'll show you a little bit later on at the end, or halfway through, wherever convenient, I'll show it to you. And then it has the name in that box. And then over the other box, it's got male, female, date, and all birth, all in different boxes. The whole thing has no lawful meaning. It's absolutely gibberish, because the whole sheet writes itself out on the top of the word with the word accused. We'll tell you what that means later on. It's absolute fiction. Now, you get one of these invitations to do business at one of their vessels in dry dock. You turn up there. Of course, you're just another vessel, and you're going to go in, and they're going to go inside, and by the mere fact that you've turned up, you're guilty. You have no chance. They might ask you, how do you plead? Well, that's just a matter of form. You're guilty by the fact you've accepted their invitation to do business. Right? Now, you need an ID. I'll show you about the IDs and how the ID works. It removes you from the fiction, capitalizes the surname into a separate entity on the ID, which you're no longer a person. And if you accept you're a person, you turn up in court to go and fight these galahs, well, you're not going to win. And even in fighting them, like through this system where you're the principal and stuff, even then, you've got to be very careful what you say, because they will change the goalposts, and we have to learn how to avoid it. But the paperwork on return of this has to be done in syntax grammar. Now, I'm not an expert in syntax grammar, but I know enough to get this, to lodge paperwork and to look at paperwork and say, well, this is the greatest load of rubbish ever. So first of all, you're going to challenge them on this garbage, because that's all it is. It's absolute garbage. If you sent a document to them in brackets, in incorrect grammar, pronouns, adverb pronouns, and it's just a mixture, a conglomerate of rubbish, they're just going to laugh. And that's why, well, a lot of people have been given out absolute idiotic information around the country about how to beat fines and all stuff, books on how to beat fines. You can't beat them. The system is set. You must do your paperwork to avoid going to court for a start, and if you ever get there, I will help you, I hope to the best of my ability, how to behave in that situation. And again, not going off attacking the judge, because a court has 5 layers. The magistrate sits up in a box, and anything again in a box has no contact with outside that box. It cannot hear, it cannot see. The jury is in a box, and they're split into 2, which makes it unlawful as well, because they've got 2 boxes with the juries in it, so they can't even communicate there. The next level, they're in the court staff, they're in a different box. The prosecution and you are on the same level. So you direct your argument to the prosecution. You've got the words are very important, and what you're actually looking for is full disclosure. And the fact that if you can get that, well, you're doing better than most people, because if you ask the right questions, they cannot give you full disclosure. I saw on Facebook someone said, keep taking sickies when you turn up at court. Now that, in the old days, that did work. So how that worked was, I'm talking about traffic, I'm not talking about criminal charges, you're on your own as far as that's concerned. If you're guilty, well then you've got a problem. If you're not guilty, then you've got a bigger problem proving that you're not guilty. But traffic I'm talking about in general, simple stuff. You could go sick on the day of the court, ring in and say you were sick on that morning. They brought the traffic cameraman in, or the policeman, or whatever the case may be. And of course you rung in sick, so they cancelled. So you did that the next time. And they decided, oh, this guy's going to keep doing that. You done it the third time, they didn't bring anybody in. You turned up on the fourth time or the third time, and the prosecution didn't have their witnesses there, so the case was thrown out if you knew what to do. But they've learned from that. They've moved on. Before you go to court, and I will show you the paperwork, you must put the paperwork in and say, I will attend on that particular day to do business at your in dry dock. That's basically, and you need to put a stamp on, because as postmaster, this is why you need this ID, as postmaster general, the post office, it's supreme. So that's why you put stamps on stuff, you plant the flag on your ID, everything has to be done correctly. Anyway, I won't go any more about that. I'll put it into writing and I'll show you and I'll explain it the best I can. Now, in the meantime, the common law courts, people have asked me what's happening with the common law courts. The common law court is ready to go, especially here in Victoria and in New South Wales, and New Zealand are ready to go to a certain degree. I'm not too sure where they are with any cases, but a few of our cases are already been to the UK and approved for prosecution. Now, letters have to be sent out and organising mediation, where we need a venue for people to come to mediate, but we're in lockdown in Melbourne. We're in a criminal society here in Melbourne, completely owned and controlled by the Democratic Party of the United States. And obviously our Daniel Andrews and Clinton have obviously done a deal, because he is going to get some backhander out of this by the looks of things. It could be seen on reasonable grounds that be the case. And then if they don't come to mediation, the next thing we have is, I've said these things before, we have a jury, and a jury has to be picked from a real, genuine public meeting, and we can't have that. So even in the UK, they're not having, there's been no common law courts for the last, since August or something like that, or correction, since February or March, whenever this started. So as soon as this is over, I promise you guys, all these people committing criminal offences, assault, abuse of power, unconscionable conduct, you can bring them to the common law court, and that will go to the International Common Law Court for adjudication on approval of the charges, and then we will go from there. So just be patient, hang in till after November, when the rotten, stinking Democrats stop burning their cities down to keep Donald Trump out, and our ratbags politicians here and mask-wearing fools realise that the whole thing was a con job, and then the law will take over. And these people, the piper has to be paid. They're having fun now, like Hitler had fun for years in Germany, and in the end he paid the piper. So anyway, long live news, sign off for now, so keep an eye out. I will show you what to do.
We all need identification at some time or other when you produce your driving license. That is, in the fictional system, it's much better to an individual identification, like this one. Let's have a look at the details. You notice, the name is John Michael. They are the given names. The surname, Doe, is in brackets. Very important detail. We have the LBE birth event, then the date of birth, the address. All very important details. When you need identification, you will notice it's got the Postmaster General stamp, a very important title, and adds a certain amount of power to the identification. All this information, you should Google it. You will notice post office's barcode is a very important part of the identification. When this identification is produced, it is sent to you by registered mail, and that number stays with you. So, now we have received that fictional communication. Let us have a look. Shall we reply to this? It is very important that we use the correct grammar, syntax, grammar, removing as many as possible pronouns, adjectives. I will put together a written example as a template. I will make it extremely easy to reply to that invitation to do business on their ship and dry dock. So let us have...
Right. When you get a document, an invitation, all in boxes like we just had a quick look at earlier on, and everything is in boxes, well, take a photocopy of that, put circles around the boxes, around the edge, or an X, like what your school teacher did when you got everything wrong at school. It was marked in red and it was wrong. So put a little box around this stuff and send it back to them, it's the copy that is, and add this document Now, the flag, it's very important to plant the flag. That's the red ensign. That's our flag. We plant that on the corner. Now, the idea here on, you can see if Ratbag Andrews here, well, I just made that up because, you know, it's appropriate for the time. And I put Diprat, well, obviously it's diploma or diplomat. So ignore that. So you put your own ID in there. So what you're now doing, you're creating a jurisdiction, not theirs. You're creating your own jurisdiction, and you're putting your identification. This who I am, not who you say I am. Very important, right? And then you come down here. You type this up yourself. Don't do it in conjunctive writing or continue writing, right? Just do it in individual letters, or copy this and paste wherever you like to do it, right? The claimant's knowledge. Everything has to be with your knowledge, right? The facts and the claims of communication, sentence structure, syntax, grammar, performance, etc., etc. was on there, right? Right? Fraudulent. What you're actually saying, the communication which you had all in boxes is a fraudulent grammar, and it's rubbish. So you're going to send it back to them and thank them very much for their invitation or their communication, right? Now, that's basically, you'll send that back with the correct paperwork. But do bear in mind, I'm not giving legal advice, I'm not giving lawful advice, I'm just giving advice. Most of this, which I've learned from Bill Turner. So stick to this, but if they have given you a date for court, be very wary. So what we do, you send this back, and I'll show you next what to do with the paperwork from how to attend court and how you're going to go in there. Because once you attend their ship and dry dock, or the vessel, they like to call them now, because we're all vessels, right? With all the water stuff and all this rubbish which we hear people talking about. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to tell them that you will attend on that day under your flag. Right, we're back to sending this document to the court stating that we will come in on the day they've invited us to do business in their vessel in dry dock. The jurisdiction, very important. Now we put our own ID in there, replace it with your own. Please don't send Daniel Andrews with his mustache on. They don't send that because it'll come back and bite you. Okay, so what you're sending this to the registrar. Now, get the registrar's name. It's not very hard to ring up and say, look at my grandson, my son, my neighbor or something is doing a school thing, because they're all at home now doing it, especially you live in Victoria, and he needs to get the name of the senior registrar so he can have some communication with the court. So you get the name, it's very easy. Write it in there, and then my name is John Doe, John Michael Doe, with the knowledge is with the claim. So everything you do is with knowledge and claim, just like minors do. We've all heard this all before. Just stick to this with the claim. With the above identification, we'll accept your invitation on the day, right, at the vessel in dry dock. Now, the vessel in dry dock is not necessarily put in, but I thought I'd add an insult into it, and because that's basically what it is. We're not telling the lies, right? And you will claim, you will make a claim as principal. You're going to say, I am the principal for that deceased estate at law. So you put the surname in brackets and put it in brackets so they say it's, okay, let's do it just to give you an idea, right? Let's put it in brackets. D-O-E, and then we'll cross it. So now you've sent this back to them, and of course you can move all that letters around. With the knowledge, all this goes on here, human rights, falsely, what they've done, they've lied to you. Now, the reason I add in with the bill of landing, because that's very important. Now, it's a good idea to put a stamp up here at the top. 10, 15, 20 cent stamp, wherever you can afford, but put that in there, right? And then autograph it down here. Just autograph it. Now, how you autograph it is, if your name is John Michael Doe, you write John Michael Doe, you know how to do it. So you write down, put the correct, right? The 2 dots, we can't put 2 in there. Anyway, full stop and such, just like on your ID form. Very important. Copy your ID, write it in, right? And then sign it. If you have, which you should have, if you're really serious about fighting the system, you should have the rubber stamps with a okay. You should have your stamps by now with Postmaster General. They're pretty, about $27 to get done. So you stamp that thing, and if you're a CPO, you have a CPO stamp. Well, if you have a stamp in red, put it down there. But try and get the Postmaster General on at least, because it's good to have a stamp. In fact, it's very important to have a stamp or a seal. It's called a seal. So you have a seal there. Put Postmaster General, sign it, and then if you have someone to authorize it, even better. A CPO, if you have those seals, even better. But you need to do it, and then on the back, you put a line through the thing, and down the bottom you put another stamp. And that's very important. And endorse that stamp with your signature. But anyway, just give this a go. It does work. I seen what it did in Dandenong Court. I shouldn't mention courts, but it was like a pork chop thrown into a mosque. They just ran around it all day and didn't know what to do. But remember, this will beat them for a certain amount of time. But these people have been around since the 13th century. They're learning every day, and they will change the rules as they go along. But this will help you. So you do turn up on the day, you have a good chance of getting your case across. But you must do it properly, and it does work, but you have to know the language, Dog Latin it is. You've got to be careful what you say, stick to the fact, claims, knowledge, and the law. Well, I hope that was somewhat helpful. It should help, because we have to stand up and fight their corrupt system. It's fictional, and it's gone well and truly overboard. It's destroyed our lives, and we should be all shouting at the window like in that movie, I've had enough, and I've had enough. Anyway, I'm going to take a big chance. I'm going to go live on, let's say, Saturday afternoon around 3 o'clock, and I'll take some questions. I haven't done it before. I'm going to try and practice it now in a few minutes and see whether the system works or not. But it'll be interesting to see. So London News sign off. Thanks for watching, and if it works on Saturday around 3 o'clock on Saturday coming, it's now, today is Tuesday, I should be able to answer some questions with a bit of luck. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.